In September 2025, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping were caught on a hot mic talking about immortality. She said, quote, "In the past, we used to say that very rarely people live past 70, but these days, at 70 years, you are still a child." Putin replied, "With the development of biotechnology, human organs can be continuously transplanted. The longer you live, the younger you become, and you can even achieve immortality." As the audio faded, she said, "Predictions are that in this century, there's a chance of living to 150. These are two of the top leaders in the world speaking about immortality. What if governments have not only secretly researched how to crack the code of the human body to bend it to their will for real, but they've also succeeded at creepy experiments beyond our wildest dreams? I found stone-cold, unethical attempts to map the brain, people who've caused near-death experiences on purpose, and world leaders caught on a hot mic discussing pay-to-play immortality surgeries already well underway. Can people really be brought back from the dead, preserved indefinitely, or kept alive forever? I'm about to share real, factual nightmare fuel with all of you. Why? Because I've never seen anyone dive into it and uncover the truth the way you're about to see. And most people think the pursuit for immortality was something left behind in the Middle Ages, just the stuff of movies, when it's actually so much more. Join me, investigative researcher Rob Counts, for a metaphysical show that's out of this world. You ever see people in the park who look like they're doing some slow Tai Chi-ish movements? That's Qigong. In the 90s, a Qigong practice in China called Falun Gong had been steadily growing in popularity. Over 100 million people were practicing, living by the guiding principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. Honestly, couldn't we all use a little bit more of that in our lives? But when the CCP regime, which rolled with an iron fist, realized how many people were practicing, they thought it threatened their power. So in 1999, they started an all-out persecution of Falun Gong. Books were stolen and burned, people were jailed and beaten just for meditating or even saying that truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance is good, believe it or not. And Falun Gong practitioners started being kidnapped on the street. In 2006, eyewitnesses came forward revealing that these prisoners of conscience were the primary victim group of forced organ harvesting, plus some other groups like Uyghur Muslims, Tibetans, and House Christians. In secret, these very healthy and good people were being killed for their organs in secret facilities. How do we know that's true? In America or other countries, you know how if you need an organ transplant from a donor, you're on a list until there's a miracle match, which can sometimes take years, decades. In China, procuring a matching organ takes a matter of weeks. Yeah. The US State Department, European Parliament, and panel of UN-affiliated human rights experts have confirmed it's happening and that they're alarmed. But how deep does this go? In May of 2024, a Chinese medical graduate student who was a kidney transplant researcher named Luo Shuaiyu died after falling from his apartment building. Authorities called the death a suicide, but Luo's parents say their son was a whistleblower who exposed forced organ harvesting of children. On Luo's phone was found audio from someone part of the transplant program staff at the second Xiangya Hospital at Central South University. The person instructed Luo grouped children aged 3 to 9 into two groups, 3 to 5 years old and 6 to 9 years old, with 3 males and 3 females in each group, 6 cases per group. These samples, aka children, aren't collected all at once. The process will likely take a long time. So you should take this chance to get familiar with how to acquire them, how to acquire the organs. He refused to source organs from children and tried to publicly blow the whistle on the crimes, so they believe he was murdered. Get this, after his death, they also found extensive evidence on his computer accusing hospital doctors of forcibly taking organs from patients without consent and selling them for huge profits. This wasn't an isolated case. In 2007, a US-based NGO investigating the persecution of Falun Gong reportedly blacklisted the same hospital and its doctors for allegedly harvesting organs from live Falun Gong practitioners. So, parts for profit has been the name of the secret underground murderous game since 1999. Remember what Xi Jinping himself said when he was talking to Vladimir Putin about living forever? In the past, we used to say that very rarely people lived past 70, but these days, at 70 years, you are still a child. Putin replied, "With the development of biotechnology, human organs can be continuously transplanted. The longer you live, the younger you become, and you can even achieve immortality. She answered, predictions are that in this century, there's a chance of living to 150. I had to wonder, how could all of this have been covered up if they're talking about it out in the open now? Well, we knew Reuters pulled the footage after the Chinese state TV demanded its removal and withdrew legal permission to use it. But Reuters said, we stand by the accuracy of what we published. So could there be more still to uncover that's been buried in other leaked instances over the years? Insiders have revealed the CCP has been learning from every research and torture method throughout all of history, and they've almost achieved immortality. Here's more proof that's leaked that's almost comical. In 2019, the Chinese hospital advertised a plan on social media to help party leaders live to 150 years old. The hospital claimed that by 2008, Chinese leaders had an average lifespan of 88 years, which was 10 years longer than in the US and the UK. Now, these ads were quickly scrubbed from the internet the following day, but 6 years later, Xi Jinping seemed to have confirmed its existence live on television. So how exactly was this being done? In 2005, Project 981 was launched in China to focus on longevity and organ regeneration, but only for elite leaders. It was run by military hospitals, most notably the People's Liberation Army's 301 hospital in Beijing. Nobody knows how much the program costs, but we do know where the organs are coming from and where they're going. In 2005, then-leader Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao upgraded this 981 project because at the time, organ transplantation was making lots of breakthroughs. And during the 1999 to 2005 time span, as the CCP persecuted Falun Gong, they suddenly had a revolving door organ bank readily available to them. If they just killed the detained practitioners whose organs matched people willing to pay $100,000 for a kidney, $200,000 or $300,000 for a liver. And yes, those were real numbers 10 years ago. Imagine the cost today. Liver transplants in China grew from 135 before 1999 to more than 15,000 in 2006. In 2014, the program advanced with Project 981, servicing over 3,000 CCP members of the leadership level. As soon as an organ fails, it can be replaced again and again and again. Short of a major accident or divine intervention, they can't die. Immoral immortality. But still scarier is how this becomes a political bargaining chip. If this live forever scheme has been working for the CCP, then organ transplants become a gift they can offer to bribe world leaders. Is that why Xi Jinping mentioned this in a group where there were reportedly 20 to 30 leaders of those countries in Beijing? If the Chinese researchers learned anything from the past, it's that prisoners can be secretly tested for medical advancements, crack the code to the mind and the body, understand how to either keep someone alive or kill them the most effectively, and your life is apparently in your own hands. So let's dive into some of those past experiments that got them closer. Where did the CCP get some of their gruesome ideas? I'm willing to bet the Nazis were on that list. Why? During World War II, there were lots of scientists looking at mysticism, unexplained phenomena, and impossible things that people's bodies could do. For one, the Nazis were conducting experiments on near-death experiences and living forever. Because zombie Nazis back from the dead is just what this crazy world needs. Heinrich Himmler was the second most powerful man in the Nazi Empire during World War II. He was also extremely interested in the occult and mysticism. Under his orders, Nazi doctor Sigmund Rascher conducted medical military experiments in the Dachau concentration camp in Germany, experiments on how to come back from the edge of death. The story goes that the Germans wanted to know how long downed Luftwaffe pilots could survive the ice-cold North Sea, and how they could best revive rescued pilots. But even if that's true, it's also a convenient way to quietly research more. So Rascher took his available prisoners and used them as human guinea pigs. He put people in ice water baths or left them outside in the freezing cold of winter, then recorded their body temperatures, muscle responses, heart rate, and urine composition as their body temps dropped. Then he tried reviving them from near death. Rascher also conducted high-altitude experiments, and the excuse was to see the best methods for protecting pilots from the effects of low atmospheric pressure when they bailed out at a high altitude. So he stuck people in a decompression chamber and saw how long it took to make their heads explode. 300 freezing people were recorded, of whom 90 people died, and 200 people were in the high-altitude experiments, of whom 80 died. The rest initially survived their near-death experiences, but were executed after the experiments. We have no idea what their cruel research turned up or what valuable survival information they gained about the human body from 500 tested people's worth of data. That's a lot of people, and even if they didn't value their lives, it took resources to experiment on them. So if there weren't any tangible results, why would they continue? Do you really believe that this Nazi research was limited to finding the best ways to rescue downed pilots? I mean, come on, they were trying to make Hitler live forever. They were literally inducing near-death experiences in these people and measuring what happened. I mean, they didn't go take that research further than rewarming and pressure survival techniques. I'm not buying it. These are not the only experiments that were done to induce near-death experiences or what happens to the human body when the mind is pushed to the brink. Also around the time of World War II, there was another mad science experiment done on a prisoner. The study was recorded in the Archives of Neurology and Psychiatry of 1936 in an article called Emotions as the Cause of Rapid and Sudden Death. Okay, so emotions causing rapid and sudden death? Seriously? A celebrated physician who was researching the effects of the human imagination was authorized by prison authorities to experiment on a criminal condemned to death, a strong, healthy assassin of distinguished rank. The prisoner was advised that in order to have his family avoid the embarrassment of a public hanging, he needed to give permission for them to bleed him to death within the prison walls, which they promised would be gradual and free from pain. So the convict, of course, agreed, and he was strapped to a bed and blindfolded. He didn't know it, but vessels filled with water were hung at each of the 4 bedpost corners and set up to drip into basins on the floor. They scratched the skin on the man's wrists and ankles, just scratched, not really injuring him or puncturing the skin at all, but making him think that they had. The water in the vessels began dripping into the basins loudly enough that he thought it was his own blood dripping. As the water drops slowly died out, the physicians in the room also carried out their conversation in lower and lower tones to match. Finally, the silence was absolute, except of course for the dripping water, and that finally died out as well. What happened to the man? Well, it appeared that he fainted, but when they examined him closer, they found that he actually died without the loss of a single drop of blood. Now that's nightmare fuel. How does a person's own psychological state cause his death? You can bet a lot of parties were interested in this line of research, and not only because it's about killing or torture methods, but also because it gives them info about how to overcome the body's limits. If you can do that, you can cheat death itself. Now, let's dive into some weird historical research, as if all of this hasn't been weird enough. In the 1930s and 40s, right around World War II, a renowned neurosurgeon named Wilder Penfield attempted to map the brain. He would give electric shocks to people's brains while they were still conscious on the operating table under only local anesthesia. Why? Penfield wanted to treat patients with severe epilepsy by finding nerve cells in the brain where their seizures originated, so he'd shock different areas of the brain. But in the process, he learned that there was a part of the brain that produced all the sensations of a near-death experience when it was stimulated by electrodes. Okay, Penfield wasn't Heinrich Himmler, so this was pretty good motivation to reduce people's seizures. But get this, some researchers thought Penfield's work may have revealed the circuit board of mysticism for the brain. Well, what the heck does that mean? Obviously, the research didn't end there. Penfield and other researchers developed a map of the body and how it relates to the brain, which they called the cortical homunculus. Okay, we blurred out his junk, but that image is terrifying. If Penfield's electrical shock experiments in the 1930s and 40s really found an area of the brain that induced the sensations of a near-death experience in people, and if his discoveries were being called a circuit board of mysticism for the brain, and if they were named after a homunculus creature in history that could tell the future or basically perform magic, yeah, that's what the homunculus is, which I'll have to get to in another episode, then who might be interested in these findings in a mystical way? Before you start commenting that I'm wearing a tinfoil hat here, consider this. Even if Penfield were just a regular guy with no ulterior motives himself, you're telling me that this verified research on inducing NDEs in the brain and coming back from the dead ended there with him? I don't think so. Near-death experiences means that you're near to death, but then come back. You see how immortality is fitting in here? Staying alive when you should have died. So using Penfield's research, was anyone able to crack more of the code on how to artificially induce an NDE and then actually return from the brink on purpose? Or map the brain with more detail than that freaky homunculus thing, whatever it's called. I think we've discovered that people have achieved it. In 2025, House of Representatives Congressman Chris Smith told of a horrific connection between past Nazi research and today in the form of live organ harvesting. He said that in China, they go and kill somebody who matches up with your antigens and everything else so that there's no or less likely to be a rejection of the organ. I've never seen anything like it except in Nazi Germany, and I think that's what we're talking about here. It's Nazi-like. Under the Chinese Communist Party's orders, a live organ harvesting apparatus has been well underway since at least 2006. Prisoners of conscience were being killed for their organs in secret facilities in China, and apparently it's still going on today. So is that why Xi and Putin are so confident people can live forever? I mean, we know the KGB was up to a bunch of stuff. You combine that with all of the CCP's research, and we've literally got Frankenstein's monster. There's a secret criminal underbelly of immortality experiments that not only were you never supposed to hear about, but that people have actually been killed for exposing. And it seems to explain what Xi and Putin were caught on the hot mic discussing. Now, that's pretty awful, and you might be wondering what hope there is, but from my last 25 years looking into some of these human rights abuses and weird research, it's clear that things are changing. The world is waking up to the truth. A survivor of this organ harvesting pipeline has come forward, and Congress is working to pass the Falun Gong Protection Act. CCP leaders are getting caught on camera exposing themselves, and people participating in these things are constantly walking away when they realize the impacts. Immortality isn't just a thing of fiction anymore, but the people perpetrating these crimes against humanity, against all that is true, good, and tolerant, they can't completely cheat death forever. In fact, to get metaphysical here, if you look into the real reports coming out of China from whistleblowers, the CCP members who have been responsible for the persecution are gradually meeting their maker one after another, sometimes in very mysterious ways. And they may be patched together with replacement organs like Frankenstein or think that they can live to 150, but about all the time they have left now is to choose their own funerals. I mean, that's getting pretty direct, but it's true. And the more we talk about what's going on, the more we can blast away these dark things with a whole lot of light. And guys, we don't usually hit social commentary issues in these episodes, but this was just too crazy to pass up. I mean, immortality on a hot mic? And if you like this show, remember to hit the like and subscribe button here on YouTube, because that impossible algorithm will know to push us out to more people. If you want to support my work and our small team of very hard workers who are always trying to beat that impossible algorithm, you can visit themetaphysical.tv, where you can get access to a catalog of over 1,000 curated videos on mysteries, metaphysical experiences, and more. Yeah, we give a whole lot back because we love you guys. Thanks so much for watching, and with that, I hope you thought this episode was out of this world. Don't forget to leave your comments below.